Welcome back to the channel. This is Wes. It's time to take a critical view, a critical perspective of the new Detective Comics creative team, Ray and V, Rafael Albuquerque, starting on Detective Comics 1062. And I say this is a breath of fresh air. Detective Comics needs something really to differentiate itself from Batman, being the other ongoing Batman series. Detective Comics can't just be Batman comics like Little Brother, trying to be the same thing kind of thing. And it felt like that was kind of what Mariko Tamaki was doing, certainly outside of her comfort zone, going in and really doing superhero comic book storytelling. Started out pretty okay, didn't really end well. Ray and V is doing something different. Along with Rafael Albuquerque, this is a much more tonally set comic book. Ray and V is going for gothic stylings. It's almost unsettling when you see the art and the story that's being told here. I will tell you, bottom line up front, I enjoy this comic book. I certainly recommend it. It can't be like a highly recommend or highest recommendation. This is like a 4 out of 5 star comic because this is a table setter. This is setting the pieces on the chessboard so Ray and V can tell a story within Gotham City. So there's not a lot of big revelations. There's not a lot of big character moments, but there's a lot of really good meat on the bone here that sets the table for what I think could be a fantastic take on Batman that absolutely differentiates itself from everything else out there that's Batman related. If you want to stand out in the crowd, you need to have your own feel, and this definitely has this. I do have a concern with Ray and V and this series, which I will not address now. I will talk about it after I've talked about the comic book, because I think it's a little bit separate from what actually happens in here. So if you want to hear my concerns, you're going to have to wait for that. Let's get right into Detective Comics. First off, looking at this wonderful comic book, and I say the design of the new Detective Comics logo is absolutely perfect for what they are going for here. It's definitely got some more gothic vibes to it. This is Ray and V's operatic take on Batman, this very dark, brooding, epic tale being told in the pages of DC Comics. So whoever designed the logo, job well done. It absolutely fits what you're doing with the title, and it makes it feel special because you've done something unique for this Detective Comics. Getting into the opening pages, I was a little bit nervous because we do see the art. It's very brooding. It's got a lot of Toad, almost helpless in nature as you read this comic book. And it starts out at an opera within Gotham City that Bruce Wayne is supposed to attend, but he's not there. And I thought, is Ray and V going to take the Tom King approach to Batman with songs and dialogue from actual operas to fit the tone of the book? That certainly happens in the first 2 pages. But then when that's over, it's done. So I was thankful for that. Hopefully they don't do this every single issue, because I think that would become very boring and grating for the reader, which is exactly what happened during Tom King's Batman run. He used the same tropes, which he thought were very deep, over and over and over until they were not effective anymore. We do get this wonderful action scene opening up. There's a heist going down at the docks. We see Batman coming in. He's calculating everything. He's timing himself to make sure that he's operating at peak capacity. He takes down a couple of local thugs. And this is wonderful action. Very exciting start to the series. Ray and V lets you know, yes, he's going to tell a deeper, more introspective take on Batman, but you're still going to get the thrills. You're still going to get the action that you expect from a Batman comic. We do get this weird reveal of Bruno Maroni, and it turns out, or at least it appears initially, that maybe he's been resurrected in a Lazarus pit. He's ungodly strong. He's throwing Batman around left and right, and Batman may have gotten infected with something, because there's something wrong with this guy. But it turns out it's not a Lazarus pit, and we know that because Talia al Ghul actually shows up and aids Bruce Wayne in this fight against this weird zombified version of Bruno Maroni. And she lets him know whatever's infecting this character that's getting him the strength, this look, and everything that's going on is actually older than the Lazarus pits, and he's far from being human at this point. And when he is defeated, ultimately he just turns to ash, so Batman isn't able to collect samples and figure out exactly what's going on. I do like Ray and V's take on Batman being intellectual. Every time that he has got an obstacle in front of him, he analyzes the situation, comes up with what he's going to do, and in real time discerns whether or not this is effective and then changes if it is not. It felt like a really great take on Batman, the way he thinks and how strategic his mind is. I did like the incorporation of Talia al Ghul here. This feels like something we would have gotten in the past, just a brief little cameo. Although as much as I do like Rafael Albuquerque's art in this comic book, she does have a touch of man face at the bottom of this page, which I didn't particularly like. It also appears Ray and V will not be putting the Batman family to the wayside and have this just be Bruce Wayne and Batman fighting against the evils of Gotham. We get this wonderful scene between Bruce Wayne and Nightwing Dick Grayson, and I absolutely loved it. This is one of the best takes on these characters and their friendship, their relationship that I've seen in quite some time. It's only 3 or 4 pages, but it's very well done, and I hope we see a lot more of this Dick Grayson, Nightwing, Batman, Bruce Wayne dynamic going on in Detective Comics under the watchful eye of Ram V and Rafael Albuquerque, because I think it is done very well. Another thing that's mentioned in this comic book multiple times is that Bruce Wayne is getting older. He's getting a little bit slower. I mentioned at the beginning he was timing himself while he was going down to the docks to make sure he made it in 18 seconds. He turns out he did it in 22 seconds. Talia al Ghul also mentions you're getting older and a bit slower. And when he has this conversation with Dick Grayson, he's kind of teasing him. You know, he's an older mentor of the character. They're friends. And he's telling him, you know, you're getting a little bit older. Maybe you're not quite as fast as you used to be. And I think that's going to be one of the overarching themes that we see in this Detective Comics run that I really enjoyed. But he's checking in with Nightwing because he thinks perhaps he was infected by whatever had Bruno Maroni infected. So he's testing himself. All the lab results come back clean. He also obtained what appears to be like a gold puzzle box. It's very ancient. He can't quite figure out where it came from. That's another reason he's talking to Nightwing to get some information from him, just in case he's seen things down at the docks as well. But it's some type of puzzle box, and there's something important, something key to the story that's inside there, because this is what the Oregon family were actually after down at the docks in Gotham City. Who are the Oregon family? That's another big introduction from Ram V in this comic book. We don't have a lot of information about the Oregon family themselves, but we do know the son, Arzon, is being sent into Gotham from his mother, the matriarch of the family. He's got 2 protectors, Shavad and Ning, that's going with him. And there's another character named Gale that's been sent in ahead of time to prepare Gotham City for his arrival. We also see that this family has a deed to Gotham City with Edward Arkham's name on it, so it certainly appears that the Oregon family are related to the Arkham family in some way, probably an offshoot by several generations from the original Arkham family that essentially set up Gotham City back in the day. When we see this character, Gale, that's been sent into Gotham City, it's very interesting. He's working with the local crime families and whatnot. And at one point, you see his eyes, and they're absolutely demonic. So it appears that this family, or at least the people working for the Oregon family, are not human. They're somehow monsters. I really like the design of these characters. This is supposed to be an operatic take on Gotham, and a lot of the character designs that Rafael Albuquerque incorporates into this comic book absolutely fit the theme of what Ram V is doing. This is a wonderful creative pairing, and I think this is a good introduction of the Oregon family into the DC Comics Batman lore. Not sure where they're going with this, but like I said, this is all table setting for the future and how this is going to play out in Detective Comics. Finally, we do see that we have Bruce Wayne, and he's almost haunted. There's something inside of him, it feels like, that's trying to get out. And we get this last reveal. He's got this nightmare that's going on, and it turns out Barbados is the one kind of haunting his dreams. Obviously, Barbados is like a bat, god, demonic kind of thing. Depending on when you started reading DC Comics, this character is related to Bruce Wayne, Batman, in different ways. It feels like now he's kind of part of the dark multiverse. I'm very interested, I guess, to see what Ram V does with the character, although incorporating Barbados into this Detective Comics story doesn't exactly get me hot and bothered. I could have taken it or left it. While Barbados is a cool character, it's not exactly something that gets me hot and bothered when I think about DC Comics, so that's included in there as well. So we've got the Oregon family, we've got Barbados, we've got Bruce Wayne slowing down, getting slower in his old age, possibly infected with something, and this being is out there that is older than the Lazarus Pits, that Talia al Ghul probably knows something about, but she hasn't been letting on. As I said, this is a table-setting issue of Detective Comics with the debut of Ram V and Rafael Albuquerque. I quite liked it. I can't really rate it higher than like 4 out of 5 because there's just not enough accomplished in here, and there's a lot of uncertainty about the future of the story. I do personally have some concerns with Ram V on this story. I think Ram V is an amazing writer. These Savage Shores is pretty much perfect from the beginning to the very end. He's had some other things out there. Ruin of Thieves, A Brigand's Tale is also quite fantastic. The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. There's a lot of really good Ram V stuff out there. I loved his Future State Swamp Thing, which I thought was brilliant in 2 issues. But I read his Swamp Thing afterwards, which looks great with Mike Perkins. And by the 5th issue, I still had no idea what the characters' motivations were, what the point of the story was, what the hero's journey that Levi was going on was actually happening. 5 issues is like 130, 140 pages. That is enough time to establish things outside the mystery and start letting the readers know why they need to invest. Me personally, I stopped reading it for that. There is a world where this Detective Comics table setter goes on too long and Ram V doesn't pay off enough mysteries and just builds more mystery upon more mystery upon more mystery. And eventually I have to leave because it's just taking too long. I can absolutely see that happen. That's my real concern with Ram V on this title, because I've seen it from him on an ongoing series, or at least it was originally ongoing at DC Comics. But I think it's a wonderful start. It has a real tone to it. It feels different, and it feels like a good thing in the DC Comics universe to have a Detective Comics that has its own identity in the DC Comics universe. I think this is a good thing. I know we've got some Batman comic fans out there. Not that long ago, actually, I think it was about 2 years ago, I sat down with my good friend Corbin, and we talked about the 5 best Batman stories of all times. We had a lot of fun making this list. I want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite Batman story? Definitely check this video out. Let's talk some more about Batman.